Noisy Pixel.
Not all paths lead to somewhere wondrous and beautiful. Like with Reggie Studio's psychological horror game, there are just some paths that would be better off untracked. While its ambient and spooky atmosphere is somewhat interesting, unfortunately, it's the most disappointing and lackluster game I've played so far this year. I'm Brad Crespo, and this is Noisy Pixel's review of s.o.n. s.o.n. has you take on the role of Robert Alderson, a father who's looking for his missing son in a deep forest, which also has caves and houses. As you explore the world around you, you'll come to realize that it's plagued with strange imagery that resembles Robert's inner demons from his past. To successfully find his son, Robert needs to face his demons head-on and essentially repent for his past sins. Now, this all sounds like s.o.n. is a narrative-driven adventure, right? Well, it's not. Not at all. The main reason being that instead of s.o.n. having a direct approach to storytelling, it instead has a symbolistic and minimalistic approach. While this kind of approach can work and has worked for a wide array of other games, with s.o.n. it just doesn't make any sense. Randomly across your journey, you'll find neon and blood-written messages on the walls, crosses, emojis, yes, I'm serious, odd abominations that don't serve any purpose, and of course, gates and keys. The symbols that are scattered across the game's world is supposed to give the player insight on Robert, like who he is and his past. However, what really ends up happening from the very beginning of the game to the very end is that you're left constantly wondering, so what's happening? And why does any of this matter? What makes matters worse is that Robert has no dialogue. He's a completely empty main character. So even when you see one of the many symbols in the game, Robert does absolutely nothing. With the lack of character and story development in s.o.n., you'll end up just being confused at all times. To put s.o.n. simply, it's like going on one of those poorly designed haunted forests that you go through during Halloween, but s.o.n. isn't even scary. Gameplay, unfortunately, is also poorly implemented and leaves much to be desired. There's basically nothing to run from, except during one very, very minor part in the game where you have to avoid a spooky thing. So really, instead of running and hiding, you're just running and running and running. In a nutshell, all you have to do is run around aimlessly, grab keys, which are a pain to grab, open gates with said keys, and then that's pretty much it. For visuals, while the lighting is impressive at times, it's hard to see just about anything when you're in certain areas. Throughout the game, there were numerous times where I ended up in insanely dark areas and had to randomly run around in multiple directions in the hopes of finding a way out. One positive highlight, however, was that I did like the neon lighting effects and the way that lighting was implemented to highlight certain parts of the game's world. The one feature that does deserve some praise is that s.o.n. consistently maintains a spooky atmosphere. At first, I was feeling on edge since I was expecting for something to pop out. However, after I realized there wasn't anything to be worried about, I just ran around with no worries. One weird issue to note though is that the sound design is pretty much non-existent. Actions like footsteps, picking up keys, and even pulling levers don't have any sort of sound. With all this said, s.o.n. is a game without a clear sense of direction or purpose. It's unfocused, full of failed attempts. Just like its full name, South of Nowhere, playing s.o.n. is like going on a trip that leads to nowhere. And to be honest, it's more of a 1 to 2 hour long aimless walking simulator than a psychological horror game. With so many other psychological horror games out there that offer so much more, I unfortunately have to say that it's best to steer clear from s.o.n. Noisy Pixel is giving s.o.n. a 2.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. You can read our full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is ran by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all of our future content.